22nd of May with a boring and annoying voting guide. And here's your host, me, Greg Shapiro. Hi, everybody. It's me, Greg Shapiro, the American Netherlander and executive comedian. And I think I'm coming through loud and clear now. Yes? Good. This week we are revealing the shocking truth behind the European elections. It's a lot like the American elections. It all comes down to just two guys. More on that in a minute. But first, the news. The EU parliamentary elections are upon us, which you may have noticed due to the billboards, mostly filled with parties that you've probably never heard of. The election so far is indeed so uninteresting that even the parties you have heard of can't really be bothered to put up their own posters. Election day in Europe is scheduled not on one single day, but on different days, depending on which country you're in. According to officials in Brussels, we wanted to send a message to the world. Anytime we can do things in an unnecessarily complicated and long-winded, unnecessarily redundant style way, we will. And yet, the EU might be more relevant than you might think. In a landmark ruling, the European Court of Justice in Luxembourg demanded that Google must let users erase records from search results on the web if requested. Google complied immediately by removing any links to search requests. For EU court in Luxembourg lets users erase records on the web. In other news, the Anti-Defamation League reports that half of all the world's adults have never heard of the Holocaust. For the record, half the world's adults live in countries that don't have a lot of internet access always, and they might not have heard of events even like Tiananmen Square or Hindu nationalist riots. More shockingly, however, the ADL also reported that anti-Semitism does exist in Europe. Mostly, the highest recorded rate in Southeast Europe, specifically in Greece, where approximately 69% of people are qualified as anti-Semitic. Ironically, the one country who is kind of screwing over the Greeks financially right now is the one place where you're least likely to find a lot of Jewish people. Don't mention the war. I mentioned it once, but I think I got away with it. Meanwhile, in the Middle East, President Obama says he is taking a pause and now waiting for the Israelis and Palestinians to make the first move. President Obama also said he is waiting for the Ukrainians and the Russian separatists to make the first move. Obama is also waiting for Syria to make the first move. President Obama is busy, okay? Now, how are the EU elections like the American elections? Well, because there really are only two candidates. So don't pay attention to the big election board. Yes, that's the one. I captured that photo myself, so it ain't great. But this is what you might be looking at. It's like a bunch of different parties. It gets confusing quickly, but we'll get back to that. Now, I mentioned it all comes down to two guys, and while these two guys have been getting a lot of press, either Farage or Wilders, it doesn't come down to them either. In fact, it all comes down to this guy. Yes, this guy is Barroso, and he is the president of the EU Commission, right? That's the commission, the closest thing that we have in Europe to the administration of the president, like in the US. Now, starting on the 22nd of May, you can vote to replace this guy, Barroso. But you can't vote directly. It is Europe, after all, and that would be too easy. Sort of like the Electoral College in America. What? Yes, it's not actual direct voting for president. in America either. But that's the thing. First, you have to vote for the EU Parliament. It's a lot of seats. It's impressive. Now, in America, you have just two parties. In America, I know we tried a third party, but it just confused people. Americans were like, which one do I hate? So let's take a look at the lot of parties. We've got Jeremy doing a very good job here of keeping up with me. Did I send you the changes? Probably not. Now, this again is a little bit difficult to decipher on your screen, but this is basically a graph of all of those seats, how they break down. There are a lot of different parties, but they've formed coalitions. These coalitions have nothing to do with the posters that you see on the streets of Europe. So if you want to follow, this is what you got to look at. And you can see that there basically is one big red area, there's one big blue area, and those are the two big coalitions. It's just like in America, they've even chosen the same colors. You got red, you got blue. Yeah, unlike America, red means socialist. And yeah, that's Europe style. And blue is more like the Christian center right, AKA EPP. Now, there are a lot of candidates as well. There's like a candidate for every one of those different coalitions and colors that you just saw, but it really comes down to just a two-way race between these two guys. You got Juncker and you got Schultz. And let's take a look at both of them. In fact, you can see how the polling is doing here, I think. Did we bring that up? Yes. All these little colors down here, those are the, well, smaller coalitions in European Parliament. But it's a neck-and-neck race between these two parties, the blue and the red, between these two guys, Juncker and Schultz. Let's take a look at Jean-Claude Juncker, former prime minister of the country of Luxembourg, and he's really just about as interesting as the photo that we show here. He's also best known for being, more recently, the head of the Euro Group. What's that? It's the head of all of the finance ministers in the European Union. The one guy who saved the European Union, but also caused a lot of austerity in the European Union. And so, yeah, he is going to promise more of that if brought in to replace Barroso. Next up, you got Schultz. Oh, sorry, Juncker. Juncker is also, he can be interesting when he's yelling at things. Schultz is interesting because he is a German guy. He is not from the biggest party in Parliament right now, but he is the president of the European Parliament. So you might say he's got the biggest shot of replacing Barroso. He is best known for shouting down Berlusconi at one point and saying that Berlusconi really is just crooked and a cheat and does not deserve to be in charge of anything. Yeah, it was refreshing for a lot of people. I believe Berlusconi then retorted that, well, he's German, so he must be some kind of Nazi. And we would never do that on this show. Don't mention the war. Got it. Will the government have any effect on big business? That is what it comes down to again. But as we said, government versus big business not having much effect. It's just like America. And with that, we'll focus next on the far-right parties that are getting so much press right after this.
Hi, I'm Nate from the What's Up Amsterdam TV show on Salto One. Join us every Monday at 6 p.m. where we're going to talk to the city's best comedians, musicians, bloggers, restaurateurs, about all the great stuff that makes Amsterdam awesome. So join me, Nate Titer, every Monday night at 6 p.m. on Salto One for What's Up Amsterdam TV. What's Up Amsterdam? Anything good is right here. Ah, shit, my burgers!
We are back with the United States of Europe, and as promised, we're going to try to break down some more information on what you're actually voting for in the European elections. Now, as we mentioned, a lot of headlines have been going to these two people. You've either got Wilders or Marine Le Pen. And isn't it interesting that with Le Pen, you've got a nice article in today's New York Times about how so many farmers in France are very happy with the EU because they get an extraordinary amount of subsidy from the EU. However, when it comes to different looking people that they might need to pick their actual produce and work on the farm, no, we hate those people. And maybe they have firsthand experience, which is why they appear to be voting for Marine Le Pen. Yes, Geert Wilders, of course, in the Netherlands, also sort of joining into a kind of coalition with Farage from the UKIP party. It's odd. It really is weird. The most passionate people so far in this election are the ones who don't like the EU, and if they are voted in record numbers to the European Parliament, they will still have very little effect on anything at all. But of course, let's take a look at the one man who might have some political actual momentum even in his in his domestic elections in the UK. Nigel Farage, get out of Britain now. He wants to get Britain out of the EU now. And yet he has been a member of Parliament for quite a long time. Maybe he does not want to have the job for very long. Sort of like Groucho Marx, I'd never want to belong to any club that would have me as a member. Well, only wants to belong to a party that doesn't want to have him as a member. That's good old Farage. Now, this week, there has been an interesting turn of events in the UK. There's been a ruling on citizenship. The government has said that if there are terrorism suspects, it is now legal for the government to revoke their citizenship. Even if these are people who are not convicted of a crime. They're just suspects. Even if they don't have any other nationality, a second passport to fall back on. Yeah, it's kind of weird for a lot of people saying, send those people back where they came from. That would be the United Kingdom in many cases. I'm not sure what the logic is here, people, but in the Netherlands, you've got Geert Wilders as well. And Wilders is interesting that he talks a lot about Eastern Europeans, doesn't like them. His wife happens to come from Hungary, which is a little detail that doesn't come up a lot. That's why I wanted to share it with you tonight. But before we go too far, there is another voice in the European parliamentary discussion. There is a sort of, you might wonder, who is standing up against these far-right parties? It's neither the left nor the right. It's right in the middle. It's this guy, Guy Verhofstadt. That's his name. He's a former head of Belgium, and you'd think he'd fit right in Brussels. There he is. It's not the most flattering photo, again, that we've got for him, but he is representing the Liberals and Democrats, or the Alliance of Liberals and Democrats, known as ALDE, or just call him Aldi. Yeah, he's Belgian, almost Dutch, likes it cheap. But anyway, he might be a bit of a voice against the far right in European Parliament. And there's also an interesting protest going on, certainly in the UK. The UKIP party, or United Kingdom Independence Party, has been sending out a record number of leaflets and campaign literature and these little postage-paid envelopes. Now, a number of people who don't like the party have figured out that if you put in a heavy object into the envelope, then they will still have to pay for that. I personally like Mark Thomas, the UK comedian, who recommended roofing tiles. They're as thin as you can get, but also dense and heavy. If you want to fight back against them, well, there's your advice. We'll be right back after one more commercial break. And as promised, let's take one more look at that election big billboard. Now, this old thing is filled with so many parties, some of which you might recognize. So when you go to vote, this is the ballot. This is what you're going to be looking at. How do you make a choice? Well, some of these parties up here actually are basically what they advertise. If you vote for the Green Left or Groen Links in the Netherlands, these guys actually have a Green Party. So it's a pretty direct line to their coalition in the, we got the Groen Links? It's a pretty direct line to the coalition in the EU Parliament. There's also D66. These ones are definitely going right into the middle. That's the joke about D66. If you go through the voting STEM visor, the voting guide, and you pick no opinion about every question, you come up right in the middle. Anyway, no, D66 we had on Marietje Schaake last week, and she explained the virtues of the middle. Actually, since the two sides are frequently fighting each other, it's the middle that might determine which way things are actually going to fall in the European Parliament. But the interesting ones are on the fringes. Come on, you gotta give some love to the Pirate Party. The Pirate Party. They believe in online piracy, that everything should be free and open, and and they believe in privacy as well, online privacy. And if you don't agree with them, then they will hack your computer and put all your personal stuff online for everyone to see. With these newer parties, you can see how the party platforms are not fully formed yet. There's also the IQ Party, which is just one guy, apparently. That's not even a list. It's just one guy, and he's from the Netherlands. He has a poster that says vote smart, and he really wants to have transparency in government. He wants clean energy. He also thinks that the government has lost the trust of the people, and that the government should, above all, tell the truth about how UFOs caused 9/11. So it's, again, we're still working out some of the kinks with these newer parties. One of the parties is a very specific issue party who really wants to get out of the EU. They're called Jezus Leeft, or Jesus Lives. And the poster for their party was just this piece of paper tacked onto a doorway in my neighborhood. Again, it's sometimes it comes down, all politics is local. Now, we hope that you will vote in these remaining minutes. I think it's just time to give a preview of next week, when our guest will be, I believe you're trying to get Jelmer, Mr. Outenthuis, who is the man behind Politieke Junkies in Amsterdam, and he's a German as well, so hopefully he will be able to explain a little bit of the background between the politics of the largest country in Europe and who might be the next European Commission president. If you would like more information, then you can find us on YouTube. The channel is, just look up Greg Shapiro on YouTube, Greg Shapiro Comedian on Facebook, and that's it. So we'll see you next week. See you then.